In case it's not abundantly clear from this footage, I need to get my life in order. Or at least I need to get all my stuff in order. So I'm working on a little crafting spring cleaning video series, and I have no idea what number video this will be. But this room is a disaster, and I need to do something before I go crazy. First is this area up here, and this originally was not craft storage space for me. It started off where I just had a little basket and like 2 things of paint up there, and then I've slowly accumulated more stuff. And it started off really handy because things were easily accessible, but now it's not easily accessible because if I want to get to the paintbrushes, I have to dig through stuff and go way to the back and try to not knock things off the cabinet. The next area I need to tackle is this filing cabinet. As you can see, things have spilled over outside of it, partly because I need them for projects, but this drawer itself is kind of a disaster. Like, I've got a ton of stuff stored in here, but nothing's very accessible. The front part here is where I store my Etsy items, and then back here is all my, it's not really trash, but it's trash basically mostly. I've got cardboard tubes, random garland, I mean this isn't trash, bows, I have lots of containers, a thing of jingle bells, and then every one of these containers is filled with something, like some kind of crafting stuff. Then as we get to the desk itself, again, partly because I'm in the middle of projects, but honestly it needs some help. And under here I have yarn storage. We're saving that for the yarn organizing video. This last place of concern, I don't know how well you're gonna see because my lighting's pretty bad, but this is the right closet in this room. And I basically have this shelf where I have storage tubs of yarn. I have cardboard back over there. This is a bucket of random craft supplies. This is more yarn, crochet patterns. Then I have a little section on this shelf of crochet thread and different jewelry items. So needless to say, I have my work cut out for me. I started by cleaning off my work table so I had somewhere I could gather everything, and I came across a number of yarn things, so I moved those to my big yarn pile to deal with in another video. And now that my table was clean, I started bringing everything to the table. And I did a little bit of sorting as I brought it to the table, trying to keep it a little bit organized as I just keep pulling more and more and more stuff out. I grabbed these 2 buckets out of the closet, and one of them is yarn, so it's going in a separate section, but the pink one needs to be completely emptied out. There were also a couple cardboard things off to the side that needed to be organized. The last thing in this closet was some yarn and jewelry supplies, so the yarn again went with the big pile of yarn, and then the jewelry supplies and other miscellaneous things I brought to the table. And then there were also some other glass jars and craft supplies on another desk, so I grabbed those and brought those to the table as well. And here is what we've ended up with so far. I've gathered pretty much everything. A few items are gonna go somewhere else. This I've got to sort through. The last thing to empty out is the filing cabinet. Basically at this point, I'm starting to weed through everything, finding what's trash and tossing it. Some scraps I'm saving. I had a stack of items from the closet that were a bunch of flat things, so cardboard, paper, other miscellaneous items, and a lot of that I was able to toss, and I just held on to some of the bigger pieces of cardboard and some old pieces from cards that I'm going to use for various projects. This Play-Doh I made was unfortunately very dry and crunchy, so I tossed that. And then I found all my jewelry things, gathered it into a pile, and set it under the table to be dealt with later on. It was around this point that I started to feel really overwhelmed with this project. I'd already been working on it for at least an hour. I hadn't even pulled everything out because there's still that pink bucket that I hadn't emptied at all. There's the filing cabinet to still be pulled out and some other miscellaneous things. But I kept chipping away at it, took a couple breaks, and we got through the overwhelming phase, and I slowly started to see some progress. Like I did in my previous crafting spring cleaning video, I did go through several items to check if the paint or the glue was even still usable. I had some Mod Podge saved in a couple of jars, so I checked those to make sure it was still good, held on to the ones that were good, and tossed out any that were dry. While organizing, I also came up with an insanely easy and inexpensive Halloween decoration idea. You can get these eyeballs from the dollar store, get an old glass jar, fill it up. Now you have a jar of eyeballs as Halloween decor. Very simple, easy DIY. So as I was going through this organization process, I kept coming across things that were left in packaging. And sometimes the packaging was great because it stored it and contained it, and other times it was better to get rid of it. In this case, this half-empty glue stick container, yeah, I'm gonna get rid of the packaging. And in addition to the trash from packaging, I also had just a lot of random trash. Some of it I was able to repurpose, and for instance, I took an old spool that I had saved and used it to better organize this rope, but some of it was just straight up trash, so I tossed a lot of that out. I finally emptied out the pink bucket, and it was kind of funny because for whatever reason, was like, I should check and see if there's anything under the bottom of the bucket. And sure enough, I discovered several dozen yarn labels. I'm gonna have to go through these because some of them I might actually need, but most of these I can probably toss. While tackling the items in the filing cabinet, I came across a couple different projects. So for instance, this is a zipper that I saved from something, but it still has some of the original item attached to it. So I seemed ripped off the rest of the original item and was left with a nice zipper, but of course that made me take a break from organizing, kind of slowed the process down, but at least I took care of it, and now I have a zipper that's usable that I have saved versus a zipper that I can't use because it still needs to have things removed from it. I finally got to a point in organizing where I was able to start taking things and putting them back into containers and organizing them and sorting them and getting things more contained, which was very relieving because everything's been a just big disaster this whole time, but we're slowly going to make sense of it and get things sorted out. And I also made sure to label my containers this time because I have a number of items stored in containers that aren't labeled, but now I'll know what is inside each item. I also had a lot of glass jars that I'm going to have to weed through and figure out which ones I actually want to keep and which ones I don't. But I was able to take all my paints and things and store them in that cute little pink basket that I was able to empty out, so that was good at least. Since my basket of paint supplies here is pretty well contained, and then I have a couple things of glue here, I'm going to put this up top on the cabinet. I don't yet know where I'm going to store these containers. We'll set these off to the side and revisit that in a little bit. So as I have been putting items into smaller containers, I've just been tossing them into this pink bucket, but now I need to put them in the pink bucket in a way that it will actually all fit and be neat and organized. So basically I took everything out and then I put everything back in. I was able to get everything to fit so that way it can sit on the shelf easily, and these items aren't super accessible, but at least they're contained and they're labeled. So these are items I don't use very often, but if I need them, I'll probably have to pull the whole bucket out and kind of sort through things, but everything's a lot more contained than it was instead of just being loose inside the big bucket. Then I revisited my jewelry supplies, and I had a couple things in packaging that I just dumped the hardware into a little slot on my jewelry bin, and I also held on to the tag so I would know exactly what item this was in that bin. There were also some yarn scraps in there that I removed, and that freed up a spot where I could store some more items. And now my jewelry items are ready to go back on a shelf in the closet. At this point, there were just a few items left on my table. I organized them a little bit, and I'll put these items away at the very end once I see where I have space left. Over here, I have my container of containers. I'm going to be getting rid of a number of these. I have been saving things for different like nutcracker projects and various things, but now I've collected enough, and so I have some excess items, or I already did the project I was saving them for and didn't use as many pieces as I thought I needed. So we're going to pare that down. I did save a handful of buckets to be made into a nutcracker. Hope they'll actually make it into a nutcracker versus just holding on to them for forever. And then a lot of items I ended up tossing. Little Christmas DIY crafting tip, empty butter tubs make great top hats for snowmen or little characters. And then also while going through this bin, I found some scrap ribbon, so I put that with the scrap ribbon in the pink bucket. So these items here made the cut, and I'm going to end up storing them in the filing cabinet, so I was able to get rid of the big cardboard box. So really then the only other thing is some stuff in this filing cabinet. I have some different things for Etsy orders. I have this scarf that I made. It's really pretty. Somebody please buy this. You know what? I'm going to run a 20% off sale on this item for the next month, and somebody please buy this. I need to free up some more space. Same with this. It's a Plurn bag. It's really awesome. They were great for the beach. Somebody please buy this. I'm going to put this 20% off for the next month as well. It's a really great, awesome bag made from plastic bags that have been repurposed and crocheted. I'm going to mark this one down 20% off for the next month as well. Somebody please buy this. Help me free up some space. This probably will stay in this drawer just because it keeps things clean and contained. I have the whole back though open, and I can slide this piece farther forward. So plenty of storage options for all the stuff that I still have out. Let's finish organizing. Once the items went back in the filing cabinet, it was so much neater, a lot more organized, a lot less clutter in there than it was before. Lastly, to finish organizing and putting things away, I just had a few items to go into the shelves on the closet. So in the end, everything ended up a lot more organized than we started. So we had that top of the desk section where I had paints and things. That is a lot more contained. A lot of the items went back up there, but they're in better containers and there's less clutter in the way, so that way I can easily grab any item that I need from up there. Then when it comes to the filing cabinet, that I made great strides, partly because I got rid of a lot of stuff in there, and I also distributed items from there to better places. So now the filing cabinet closes very easily. I don't have the clutter on the floor beside it, and I don't have the big cardboard box of containers. The last area is the shelves in the closet, and again, this one you don't necessarily see the improvement, but what's inside the pink bucket is so much more organized versus just being 100 items loose in the bucket. And I still have to put my yarn back in here, but that we will deal with in another video when I tackle all my yarn. But again, the big thing here is everything is contained. So even though a lot of the items went back on the shelf, they're more accessible, they're contained, they're not about to fall over and dump my craft supplies all over the floor. So that is the end of cleaning up the room where I film. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my cleaning process again and seeing the improvement. And of course, be sure to come back because I have a couple more crafting spring cleaning videos, and the next two are going to be all about yarn, so you don't want to miss those. But I will catch you next time. Happy crafting!